Politico.com, the Republican candidate for governor.
Have sexual relations
And
with
I
that woman.
realize that this is something
Miss
he is
Lewinsky.
We're not going to be able to solve our problems if we get distracted by sideshows and carnival barkers.
One Republican, one Democrat, and you discuss the issues that matter in today's local, state, national, and global politics. Hosted by Steve Hickson with co-hosts John Stanberry and Franklin Chansey. This is Backfire.
Hey, welcome to another edition of Backfire, everybody. With myself, Steve Doball Hickson, Franklin Chansey, John Stanberry, and Chief Engineer Daniel Grant. Good morning. Well, how's everybody doing this week? It's lovely. Lovely. It's lovely. How about you, John?
I'm fine. It's just hard to realize that
He's not lovely. He's
this is
only
the
fine.
show before Christmas.
Yeah, this is our last show this year.
I mean, it seems like, we just started 2017 and we're already to Christmas. I guess, as I've gotten older, boy, life does go by faster.
By the way, everybody, we're going to take off next week. We're going to take a little Christmas vacation. So this is our last show this year.
That's the clap. We get clapping for that, Daniel. Okay.
Oh, my.
Few members of our studio audience, sir, out of line.
So at the end of the show, can I be indulged with a minute or two for a Christmas story?
I wish you would.
All right.
That'd be a good way to end it. Here's a story that's just kind of weird to me. The embryo is just a year younger than the mother who birthed her. We've now inserted the oldest frozen embryo, 20-something years, to a mama that's the same age.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because actually technology, and especially technology of birth and all, has been what's led to an actual increase in support for pro-life issues among the younger generation. Because the social liberal progressives of the 70s and 80s kept claiming, it's, not viable. Science has shown us that viability is moving younger and younger and younger. So these kind of scientific developments are building a stronger pro-life community.
It's amazing. Well, our tax bill passed. Happy or sad?
Has it passed? As of last night, there was some kind of hitch in it.
Well, the only hitch was the obstructionist Democrats had found some minor technicalities that they were going to force the parliamentarian to change. And when that happens, then the bill has to go back to the House for another vote, which is a foregone conclusion. So again, it's obstructionism just for the sake of obstructionism.
Okay.
Say that again.
Obstructionism for the sake of obstructionism.
Is that what we call Democrat now?
That's them. Better known as socialists. Talk about it.
Sure you can. By 2027, 87% of the benefit from the bill resides in the top 1% of the country. In fact, 67% of it resides in the 1/10 of 1% of the country. And at that point, several other people will have tax increases who make less money.
Well, let me ask you something.
no, wait a minute,
Let me respond. Will Obamacare be gone by then?
Perhaps.
Go ahead.
But guess what? Even the congressional Republican analysts agreed that it's going to cause insurance premiums to go up 10% next year, more than they would have.
How much were they supposed to go down when we had Obamacare?
Up is up.
How much were they
Up
supposed
is
to
up.
go down?
They
$2,500 a year.
Okay.
Did they do that at all? Did they stay even? No, they went up in
at a far lower rate.
triple digits.
Lower rate than they were going up before.
They went up over
Just
100%.
continue the lie, John. Just continue it.
The lie?
Yes, the lie.
All right,
About
look,
Obamacare?
this is real simple. I've said this.
First of all, that's a nice segue to ignore this steaming pile of crap you guys just passed
Well, wait a minute.
yesterday.
Let me just...
Okay?
Let me-
That,
let
in
me-
fact,
let
is
me
hidden
respond.
tax increases
Let
on
me
a bunch of
respond-
people.
Let me respond to your pile of crap you just talked about. A tax break versus tax increases.
Tons of people got tax increases in this bill.
Well,
Actually,
if they lived in New York or California or New Jersey, yes.
Well, given that they pay an inordinate larger share of taxes to the country, I don't know why you would have a problem with that.
Well, then why do you have a problem with the 1%? You just used two opposite arguments.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you
no,
did.
I'm not.
Earlier,
I'm
a minute
making
ago.
it very simple.
No, Franklin,
no,
a minute ago. No, you don't get to walk away from that.
You're not
You
gonna
just
go, you're not
flip-flop.
going down that
You
line,
just
John,
flip-flop
because now I
and used
do.
a different argument.
Folks,
Folks, did you hear that? He went on both sides of the coin in the same argument. Both sides of the coin.
Here's the difference, and it's real clear.
Let's talk about it. And not
Here's
All
the
those,
difference.
no.
Those
all
are Democratic
states that you're
governors
just
and
talking
mayors.
about,
That's
John,
the difference.
All those states you're just
Are
talking
Democrats.
about. All those states you're talking about pay more than their fair
Are
share.
run by Democrats. They're all run by
and
Democrats.
pay more
and
than they get back.
And they have high...
Pay more than they get back, unlike
Really?
the leeches.
Really?
Yes,
So
that's right.
how about the 1%? Do they pay
They
more
also
than they get
they
back?
get a lot more
How
than they
much
pay
do they?
back
How do you know?
because
They get more services, so
Yes,
they get
they
more
do.
road. They get to drive on the road more.
Absolutely.
They get
and
more
they benefit
school.
economically from it too.
No, Franklin.
Yes.
You see, folks, he's on both sides of the argument. Nothing but an opportunist for political gain. Both
These
sides
are
of the same
facts that
argument.
you can't run away from.
All right, here's
John.
a fact.
Here's a fact.
The-
In Tennessee, you send $1 up there to Washington, and you get what back?
You know how we fix that?
$1.18.
Right. You know how we fix
up
that?
there in those
We're doing
countries, those states that you're talking about, they send $1 and they get like 87
why don't we just
cents
quit
back.
sending dollars?
But yeah, let's just quit sending dollars to the
Well,
government.
fine. You just screwed your own state. Way to go.
No,
Good
Franklin.
job, guys.
Listen to what you're saying. The federal government is socialistically redistributing the wealth, which you support, but then your answer is to empower the government
years, that top 1% has made nothing but profit. Profit.
more. Off of who?
Off of who?
Off of what? What they make profit
Primarily
off of?
stocks, John.
In other words, off of work and investment, which used to be what America was about. Did you hear what he just said now,
I
folks?
disagree with
If
that
you
statement.
make profit, if you're successful, he doesn't like you and you don't
Most of
pay
that profit
enough.
isn't coming from people who are building factories. It's coming from people who are shuffling paper just to make more profit.
You know why they're shuffling paper? Because the
'Cause they're not
bureaucracy
contributing
of the
to-
federal government requires all the paper. You create a problem and then
have created in your
no,
mind
Franklin,
this
you
mythology
created a problem
that
in
the
government.
is sitting on top of you and preventing
Fine, Franklin.
you from
know
reaching
what?
glory.
Run on that. Tell the American people that government's
John,
not big enough.
Your party just passed a tax cut that is 20 points less popular than Obamacare.
right. You know why?
How hard could that be?
I'll be glad to address that. The reason is because the media has put forward this idea. I've got those statistics, Franklin.
Let's hear them.
Over 50% of the people believe that their taxes are going to go up. The problem is even the left-leaning Tax Policy Center, which is a liberal group, says 80% of Americans will get a tax cut and only 5% will see any increase.
The problem with that analysis is
Well, you
it
love
doesn't
them.
look
They're a
at all the
liberal group.
other things. Technically, yes, you get a tax cut, but then you take away all these deductions and so
Only in
forth
high,
that people
in high
have.
tax states
No,
like New York
no,
and California.
not only in them. I'll give you a local one that will
Okay.
will impact a lot of people. Did you know that this particular plan eliminates the deduction for people who pay alimony?
Franklin,
Did you know that?
what's the
Did
deduction?
you know it?
You
I
know
didn't
what?
know that.
Maybe they'll start getting married.
Maybe they'll stay married more often.
So now you're all into the social
Look,
engineering.
Franklin, let me. No, this isn't engineering.
That's great,
So
John.
what you're telling me?
That's great.
No, wait.
I'm just
No, let's
telling
talk
you,
about.
John,
No,
that
no,
you
no,
haven't
no.
read this
Let's
text
talk
bill,
about-
and 90% of
let's-
you up there haven't read
let's
it.
talk
so
about-
stop acting like you know what's
Franklin,
in it. You don't have any idea what's
Let's
in
talk
it.
about social engineering for just a second. What you just
no,
said.
let's talk about
No,
the stinking pile of crap you
So
guys
you don't
have
get to
done.
you get to bring something up, but then you don't
That's
have to
right,
discuss
because
it
you do it every
that's a
week.
liberal.
That's
Bring it
right.
up
I'm
and
gonna
don't
keep doing
discuss
this
it.
too.
And by
We're gonna
God,
keep
don't have
talking
any
about
facts.
What you're doing,
Make sure you
not
don't
what
have any.
somebody else
No,
is doing.
Franklin, I want to follow
Let's
your
talk
line
about
of
your
logic.
bill. It's your party. You own it.
Folks, do you notice this? I'm trying to respond to his own argument, and he doesn't want me to respond.
All right. If you would say anything
So the
substantive,
only
it would be
thing
nice.
social engineering in what you just said, Franklin, is that obviously what you're advocating is tax policy that encourages divorce. because it rewards the alimony payments. So Steve and I are saying, hey, maybe taking away that reward might lead to more people staying married, and your argument back is social engineering. You're the one engineering, except that you're engineering for divorce.
You believe that people get divorced for the tax benefit. That's your theory.
People don't think things through, and the easier you make everything,
with
the less they
Republicans
think
in
it
charge,
through.
they're obviously going to do that.
I think they get divorced because they become a Republican and a Democrat couple.
Franklin, do you know what the vote in the government was, in the Senate was, when President Reagan proposed his tax cuts in the 80s?
I don't remember.
It was 97 in favor, including Ted Kennedy.
Sure. And
What happened to the responsible cut taxes
as Joe Manchin pointed out yesterday, it would have been easy to get his vote if they even tried. They didn't
What's
try.
the alternative? What's the Democrat alternative?
On which issue?
On the taxes. What's your policy
It
issue?
wouldn't have been a policy that by every
What
analysis
was
10%
was
to the
the
national debt.
Democrat alternative that you all put forward?
No fracking, no oil.
No, I'm serious. What tax policy did the Democrats
More
put
taxes.
forward?
We actually would have supported.
Well, not would have. What did you put forward?
When, John?
Now, during this current debate, what tax policy did the Democrat Party put forward as an alternative?
There was a proposal offered by Senator Manchin on several of
No,
these
what
points.
total package, what policy?
John, we didn't put a
in other words,
total
nothing.
package.
Nothing but opposition. Matter of fact,
John,
no, wait a
that's
minute.
so
There was
stupid.
one Democrat policy put forward. You know what it was? It was Bernie Sanders' tax policy, and it was to raise taxes back to over 70%. So, folks, if you support the Democrats, the only alternative they put forward was to raise taxes back over 70%.
Does anybody ever pay attention to what you say, John? Honestly.
What?
I mean,
asked
I
you a
have
simple
listened
question.
to you for a
Look,
decade.
if you
No,
can
no,
tell
for
me
a
what
decade.
what
For a
Schumer
decade.
put forward.
For a decade.
What
I have
Schumer?
listened
What
to
did
you
Schumer put forward,
rage
Franklin?
and rage and
What did
rage
Schumer
about
put
out
forward?
of control government spending
What Schumer-
and the national debt. And what did you do? You just immediately jumped onto a plan that even all the Republicans
Well, let me
agree
ask you
is going to add 10% to the national debt.
Let me ask you
It makes no sense.
Let me ask you something. What those poor Californians and New Yorkers going to do now that they only get to deduct 10%?
They're going
It's
to
10,000, not 10%.
10,000.
they're going to come back on the Democrat governor and mayors and say your taxes are too high. You're going to have to cut our taxes.
Okay.
By the way, let me read you a quote. There is a paradoxical truth that tax rates are too high today and that tax revenues are too low. And the soundest way to raise the revenues in the long run is to cut the rates now. Whose quote is that?
Well, it's probably somebody like John Kennedy.
It is John Kennedy.
But it's 1960,
It doesn't
and
matter.
the rates were
It
90%
It doesn't
then.
matter, Franklin.
Jeez, John.
He doesn't matter. He doesn't say it today.
Why don't you
He's
just-
making a
why don't you
statement of
just
principle.
abolish the government completely,
Well,
so you can live in your Aryan paradise that you think's going to break
All right,
out.
folks. Now I'm going to try not to be angry at Franklin.
Oh, don't try hard, John.
Well,
Just
fine.
go for it.
You
Make yourself
fine.
feel better.
Don't ever call me a racist again. I am tired of you losing an argument
Well, I
and
am
going to
tired of
racism.
the
Why don't you
Republican
learn to
Party.
argue? Why don't you learn to make a logical
Hey,
case?
where am I quoted, John?
When did
Where am I
no,
quoted?
you tell me when I became an Aryan. Tell me, Franklin.
You started
that is
voting for those idiots.
that is an insult, and it is.
All this over taxes.
No, Franklin. Learn to win an argument. Don't name call.
Okay.
It's not a name call. The Republican Party is full of bigots.
You didn't call the Republican
Tell us what you
Party
think.
Aryan. You called me. You called me because you were losing.
Yeah.
5553.
You're voting for the policies that they're voting for, and yet they are race-based.
Wait a minute. Let me just say
The only
something.
racists here are the social progressives that have put the poor
I've
people
listened to this.
under the government
I've listened to
thumb.
this for 5 years, and you using all your little catchphrases that Fox News shoves into your head every morning. Social
So no,
progressive.
I can't believe how
Social
usually
progressive.
You can't win an argument.
Progressive.
Call the person
You know what
that- call the
progress
racist,
is?
Call them a name because you can't
Progress,
win an
John.
argument.
Hey, Franklin.
Progress.
Franklin.
That's the root of progressive.
Learn to win an
Progress.
Wait a minute, both of you. I want you to calm
How
down,
about Roy
Franklin.
Moore, John?
I didn't vote
how about
for Roy.
how about the
I
one who
didn't
said he
vote
wanted
for
to
him.
abolish the 13th Amendment?
Franklin, I wasn't for Roy.
Oh,
Moore.
yes, you
We
were.
weren't.
You and
We
everybody
talked
else
about,
were there.
I'm sorry,
for it.
apparently you don't remember. We talked about
Oh,
it on
yeah,
the show.
yeah. You would have winked and nodded and
How did Roy Moore get into this tax?
So in other words,
just like you did
a
for the
guy that
president.
the Republican Party repudiates and doesn't elect to office is still used against us.
That's because the people of Alabama are more progressive than you, John.
They voted
which
against
is
him,
almost
Franklin.
inconceivable.
And I said it was a good thing that he didn't get elected.
All right, can
But,
I say something?
don't be bound by facts. You never are.
Hey, I can't believe we're arguing like this over taxes going down.
Right. Taxes are going down, but the Democrats hate it.
Okay.
What's the problem with taxes going down?
So much hypocrisy.
Because the
I'll be
party,
sick
the
of
Democrat
it.
Party
Wait
is
a
a
minute.
socialist
What-
party at this
what-
point.
No, I have listened to you
what's
guys
wrong
for 30 years make the
So
argument.
you're against
that
lowering taxes.
I'm against stupidly lowering them, yes.
Well,
I'm against
would
all
you
the
lower it?
benefit really going to benefit people who don't really
All right,
need it.
Franklin, tell me how would
If you wanted to do
All right,
that,
how would you lower
how about this real simple statement for it? You voted for Donald Trump.
Yeah, I did.
Donald Trump
I'm gonna vote
said,
for him
and I
again.
quote, that he was going to raise his taxes and the taxes of people around him.
He did.
And
He lives in Manhattan,
he was
and his
gonna-
taxes will go
and
up.
He said an unbelievable amount.
He said
And
they're gonna
no,
go up,
first of all,
Franklin.
no, he didn't raise his taxes.
He did.
Number two, let
He
me
took
finish.
away his
Let me
deduction.
finish. And he was going to pass that massive tax cut on to the middle class.
Yep.
Didn't do it. That's
Actually,
not what
according
happened
to
at
all
all.
the people that have
No.
looked at the plan, it does cut taxes, $1,600 to $2,000 per year per family. You're going to get a $2,000, and on top
First
of
of
that,
all,
Franklin, if I get a
that's a
$2,000,
misleading statement.
it's from the left-leaning tax policy center.
Because what he's doing is averaging it over everybody. A lot of those people, in fact, are getting nothing out
Franklin, let me ask you a question. How do you tailor a tax cut to benefit people, the bottom 50% of tax of
of it. How about
filers?
the middle 50%?
No, let me ask you, the,
That's what
bottom,
we're
the bottom
talking about.
half, the low,
The middle 50%.
No, just answer
How
the
about
question.
that?
How would you
That's
tailor?
called the middle
How
class,
would you?
John.
Fine. The bottom 50% is the middle class, Franklin. I hate to break it to you. Most people consider the top 50% the bad guys, according to you all.
No.
How do you tailor a tax
we're
cut
talking
to the bottom
about the middle
50%?
50%. Not the top 25, not the bottom
Let's help the
25.
poorest of the poor. How do you tailor a tax cut to the bottom 50%?
Well, I guess you could do Marco Rubio's approach.
Well, how much did the bottom 50% pay?
In which taxes, John?
Overall, how much does the bottom
You're
50
talking about their federal taxes.
No, overall, the tax burden, how much do they pay?
It's going to vary from state to state because of sales tax.
Nationwide statistics, how much do the bottom half pay?
I don't know the answer to that.
Nothing. The bottom half don't pay any of the taxes. So how do you, let me put it to you this way, folks.
So every time they buy diapers at Walmart, they didn't pay any taxes. You say this stupid stuff and
Let,
think people
let me
don't
explain
believe
it to you this way, folks.
Yes,
If
poor
you
people
go-
pay taxes every
They
single
pay
day.
sales taxes,
In fact,
which
they
are
pay a
state
higher percentage
sales
of their-
taxes, which are states.
That's
That's
what
a
I
state
just
tax.
said, John.
Franklin,
I said you're talking about
this
federal
is a
economic-
federal plan. It's not a state plan. The feds can't do anything about state sales taxes. Talk to the governor of every state if you want to fix that. But the federal taxes, the bottom half,
Stop
don't pay any.
acting like
The
people
bottom
at
half
the
don't.
bottom
All right.
aren't paying taxes.
They're not paying federal taxes, and that's what we're talking about. So, folks, here's how this works. There's 10 of you, and you go out to eat. And one friend says, I'm going to pay the bill for everybody. And you all are really nice to the waiter, and you're really nice to the restaurant, and the owner of the restaurant comes over and says, you know what? You all were so nice. If you'll go out and you'll tell everybody about our restaurant, I'm going to give you a 20% discount on the bill. Now, Franklin's sitting at the table, but he's not the guy that's paying the bill. Joe over here is paying the bill. But Franklin says, that's not fair for you to get a 20% discount. I want part of that discount. Now, he's not paying the bill, but he expects to get part of the discount.
In John's fundamental, deep-seated, almost religious belief is that people at the bottom of our society have done nothing but leeching
I didn't
off the
say
people
that.
from the top.
Didn't say that at all.
That is
Once
what you
again,
think.
you're going down a road
That
I
is
never
what you
said.
believe,
No,
John.
what I said
It
is you
is what
can't
you
give
believe.
somebody a tax
It's
cut
what
who
you
doesn't
believe.
pay taxes. It's
what
that
you
simple.
believe.
Franklin, how do
And
you
no
give a
matter
tax?
how much,
How
no
do
matter how much the last 20 years, the people at the top have done incredibly well.
What happened?
Unbelievably well.
When Bush
You
cut the
still
taxes.
believe that they're being screwed
Franklin,
somehow.
when Bush cut the taxes, what did the percentage of the total taxes paid by the rich do? Go up or go down? We cut after the tax cut. After the tax cut, what happened to the percentage of taxes paid by the wealthiest in America? We cut their taxes. We cut the rates. What happened to the total taxes paid? The percentage that the rich paid.
Total. Those are different.
The percentage of the total. What percentage of the total did the rich pay after the tax cut?
Well,
A higher percentage.
given that the economy collapsed and unemployment went up to 10%, they probably paid a higher percentage because nobody else was making any money
That's not true.
except them.
I'm not even talking about in 2007 when it collapsed. Immediately after the tax, when you go 4 years down the road, before the collapse, what happened to the percentage that the rich paid? Did it go up or did it go down after the tax
I
cut?
couldn't answer that question.
It went up significantly. Every time we've cut the rates, when JFK cut the taxes, the percentage the rich paid actually increased. When Reagan cut the taxes, the percentage that the rich paid actually
What
increased.
about all the government spending
But
that was
here's my
generating
point,
those
Franklin.
profits,
You're
John?
just jealous and envious of people.
I'm not envious.
Yes, you are. As
I
a government
no.
person, you are.
I just
They're
think they ought
paying
to be more grateful.
They're paying more. What do you mean grateful? They're paying
Yes.
more.
They're getting
And
more
that's not
out of the
enough for
country
you.
than anybody
You're
else.
a guy who
And they're
almost
bitching
took
about it constantly.
your guy who almost took the nomination, Bernie Sanders. His plan, his alternative, was to raise rates back over 70%.
But
he
he-
actually advocated
but he
a
didn't get
90.
elected, John.
and he almost won
didn't
your.
get elected by
You're
the
right,
Democrats.
but he almost got elected by you all. He's the leading.
He would have won if it
he's-
hadn't been for
right.
Hillary's
If she hadn't been
stop 'em
colluding
machine.
and the Democrats hadn't cheated him, he probably would have won your nomination. And he actually
you
said
should be
he
glad
thought
he didn't.
he thought over 90% rates would be good. So that's the alternative for y'all folks. The Democrats don't think taxes are ever high enough.
Franklin, you need to calm down. You're starting to sound a little bit like Nancy.
Or Bernie.
Okay.
Anyway, the tax bill did pass, I think. They got something's going on here, but it's basically over with. Am I right or wrong?
Presumably.
It's over with.
Okay. So let's celebrate. Should we celebrate?
Well, he can't.
Let's have a sip of coffee.
He's too envious that someone might get a discount on what they're paying.
Listen, under this plan, I got a tax cut.
You work hard, Franklin. You work hard, you earn money, you pay taxes, you get a tax break. I'm all for you getting a tax break.
Here's what's coming next, folks. They're going to walk in here now and say that we need to cut back Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security
It's
benefits.
going to go broke if we don't do something to it, Franklin.
Because
When's it going broke?
Because we've increased the deficit.
When's it going
Because
broke? When,
maybe
if we do
7 or
nothing
something like
to
that.
it. So if
Nobody's advocated doing nothing to it.
all you do is say no, we can't do anything. Anybody that even mentions doing anything, Franklin, you run ads of them killing old people. That's what your party did to Paul Ryan. They ran an ad of him throwing an old lady in a wheelchair off a cliff simply because he said it's going broke and we have to do something.
Paul Ryan has advocated for most of his career dramatic cutbacks in those
You
benefits.
have to or it's going broke.
Or you fix
Face
it.
reality.
The same way Reagan fixed it.
Drastic cutbacks are fixing it, Franklin. Now, you may disagree, but at least that's part
right.
of the
I
conversation.
appreciate that's the most honest thing you've
But
said.
Franklin, the point is you all
That's the
didn't
most honest
disagree.
thing
You
you've said.
didn't disagree. You vilified him just like you did me earlier because you all don't want
I
to have
do
an actual
vilify him,
honest
'cause he's
conversation. You don't want to have
It
an
is
honest...
stupid
Look,
to
Franklin.
give up that much success in our country.
How do you call that success when you're going broke? How is that success?
Every pension plan out there has to make adjustments and
Are you,
readjustments. over
I
time.
know that you don't
This
like
is
to,
not rocket
I know
science.
that you don't like to deal with facts, so since
it
you
is
just
a
said
fact.
this is not rocket science, let's be rocket scientists for a minute. Do you know what the average Medicare recipient pays in the course of a lifetime? Because I'm one of those stupid people that actually keeps up with facts.
Over
do you
the
know?
course of a lifetime.
Yes,
No,
over
I
the
don't.
course of their lifetime, do you know what the average person pays in?
I do not know.
It's around I don't have the exact number, but it's around $135,000 over the
Okay.
course of their lifetime. Do you know what the average person draws out of Medicare over the course of their lifetime?
Sure, it would be millions probably.
No, it's around 340,000.
Okay.
How many times is 330 bigger than 130?
Thank you, John, for that math lesson. But who
Well,
else?
I'm asking
but
you.
who else
How many?
is
No,
contributing to
we're
that,
not.
John?
Look, I'm asking a question. How many, is that close to 3 times
And
what
is
they're
that
paying?
any different,
All right.
John?
No.
than- your car
I got
insurance
one
or
follow-up
health
question,
insurance? It's
Frank.
the same thing.
No, that's the government. Insurance is a company that has to answer to stockholders, and they have to turn a profit. The government, unfortunately, doesn't. Just like our local city council, when they want more money, they just raise our taxes
Yes,
28%.
John, we have made
so
a
let me
com-
ask you a
we have
question.
made a compact
Is
as a
that
society.
sustainable? 130 in, 330 out. Is that sustainable? Does your law practice do that? Does it
Who else
spend
is
more than it takes
contributing
in?
to that, John?
Frankly, it's a simple question.
It's not simple.
If you put in
because you're
130
changing- because
and
you're
you take
changing
out 330, it's not sustainable. And if you can't make that simple statement of fact,
John,
then nobody ought to be listening to you.
John, it's not this complicated.
No, it's not. If you
It's
put
not. It works
less in
exactly.
than you take
it works
out,
exactly
it's going to go
the
broke.
same way your private insurance does.
No,
Healthy people subsidize sick people.
Franklin, no,
That's how it works.
no, that's not true. You're completely wrong about that. Because in insurance, I will get the numbers for you next week. The average person, if you average the pay-in for an insurance company, it will be higher than the payout, or they go broke. That's the point. An insurance company has to be at least even, much less profitable. Social Security, Medicare are paying out more than they're taking in. And I know you're a liberal, but in the business world, that's unsustainable.
And so what do? You have to
You
make
have to
changes
fix
and
it.
adjustments.
But as soon as anybody says anything about well, all right, let me
You
ask
guys haven't proposed any fixes. All
Paul
you
Ryan,
proposed
his entire career has proposed fixes, and you all have never talked about it. You vilified him just like you vilified me
what
earlier
Paul
in
Ryan
this show,
has proposed is just creating a private system.
which is a solution. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't, but it's a solution.
You're right.
And
we
you know
don't
what?
like it.
You think government
But you
runs
didn't
better
say
than
we
private
don't like
business?
that, Franklin. You
Sometimes.
said he hates old people.
Because
What in government runs better?
can't be run like a private business. It doesn't have a
Actually,
profit
it could
motive.
be. It
No,
could
it
be.
can't be.
Actually, it's
And
easier.
you're actually seeing the dysfunction.
All right, let me
in
ask you a
Washington
question, Franklin.
when
So
they
a
try to do
private
that.
business can run for a profit, but a government can't even run to break even?
Well, a government doesn't have the same flexibility to immediately fire people,
You know why?
raise
Because
prices.
the liberal Democrat union policies that have been cramming
Really?
down the government's
So
throat.
if you
Federal
use
unions.
if you use your analogy, then what Donald Trump ought to be able to do is just raise the Medicare premiums enough to make it profitable.
People can't afford it.
Well, exactly, John. A government
Franklin,
doesn't
it's
run
real
like a business.
Franklin, if you're running your business and you're spending more than you're taking in, do you say, we're going to just raise our rates on our customers enough to cover this? Or do you say, folks, we got to cut back somewhere?
Well, you explore all kinds of changes. I've talked about some of them in here.
Well,
on this
when you
show.
raise your prices, what happens to your business? Does it go up
Sometimes
or
it
go
goes
down?
down. Sometimes
Because people don't
it
want to pay
depends on
more.
the demand for what you have.
Well, what if you raise it above what everyone else is charging in town?
Then you've got an issue, don't you?
Well, that's the problem with government. It has no competitor. We have no option. We have no choice. It's a dictatorial system. And so just like
Well,
the
that's
state...
right, John. Retired people probably couldn't afford private insurance.
No,
on
what
the market.
happened was Democrats couldn't
So yeah,
afford
there
to
has to be
promise-
a government solution.
Democrat pension promises were too rich. But they were buying votes, and so all they cared about was buying the
is
votes.
Chicago, pretty good.
Yep,
example.
excellent.
Good.
They
good
promised
example of
the
Chicago.
pensions of there are higher. Think about that, Franklin. The government pensions are higher than the private sector pensions. Does that make any sense to you? You work for the government. Traditionally, the benefit of that was that you weren't ever going to lose your job and you were going to have a pension. Now, you're never going to lose your job and you're going to have a better pension than people that worked in the private sector who are paying your pension through their taxes.
Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson. We'll be right back after this.
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
At Buy Here, Pay Here USA, we don't just sell cars, we buy them. Bring your car, truck, or SUV down to Buy Here, Pay Here USA, and we'll give you a free appraisal with no obligation. We pay top dollar for most cars, so before you trade in your vehicle, come see us for an appraisal. At Buy Here, Pay Here USA, we pay the most for your car. Visit Buy Here, Pay Here USA in Cleveland, Dayton, or Chattanooga, or go to buyheresellhere.com. That's buyheresellhere.com. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
Why would you put up with a heating and cooling system that cycles on and off when you can have quiet, true comfort, variable speed by train? It runs at low speeds with continuous little adjustments to keep your home comfortable and quiet. It's always been hard to stop a train. Now, it's hard to hear one.
When you want an unconventionally efficient heating and air unit that keeps your home right in the comfort zone, day in and day out, nothing will do but a Train. To get the best Train service, call your local Train comfort specialist. Mechanical Systems, 336-5739. Keeping you comfortable is Mechanical Systems' only business, and they've been providing high-quality service and installation for more than 30 years. Mechanical Systems, 336-5739. That's 336-5739.
It's hard to stop a train.
Looking for unique gifts on a budget? Come to the fashion jewelry sale at U.S. Money Shops in Cleveland, Tennessee. We have brand new pieces from Chico's, The Loft, White House Black Market, and more. Each piece is just $5, so you can wrap up your gift giving and pick up something stylish for yourself. The jewelry sale is at the U.S. Money Shops warehouse, located at 460 South Lee Highway in Cleveland. Hurry! The sale is only Thursday, December the 14th through Saturday, December the 16th. Stuff those stockings with something merry and bright for just $5.
No dealers allowed.
Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933, offering the best with over 70 styles of recliners, sofas, electronic lift chairs, full living room packages. Call Mike now at 961-7239 because Jackson Catnapper now offers sales to the public
every Saturday. That's right, every Saturday.
From 8 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. Or call Mike at 961-7239. Or go see him
every Saturday
at 1911 King Edward Avenue, just across from the main plant. Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933. 961-7239.
No dealers allowed.
If you need a little green, Lending Frog is making deals. He'll lend you cash on any kind of wheels. Borrow just a little, or you can borrow big. Lending Frog is a new financial gig. It's hip to hop into cash. LendingFrog.com is making a splash. Dig it, dig it. Dig it, dig it.
Hello, my name is Andy Figglestaller with Ed Jacobs & Associates. We are an employee benefit and insurance broker in business for the past 20 years. The new healthcare law, also known as Obamacare, has finally arrived. The law is complex and the choices are confusing. You have questions, we have the answers. It is our passion to find cost-effective solutions for every client. The solutions will be different for every person or business. Let our knowledge, experience, and passion go to work for you. Contact us today and let us assist you through this process. Our phone number is 423-473-0202, or you can find us on the web at edjacobs.com.
Ho, ho, ho! Rent to own! Hey, my Clevelanders, this ain't Santa, it's Fro. If you need to fill up some rooms in your home, but you don't have a lot of dough, go see my friends at Economy Rentals before Christmas for a washer and dryer set for only $19.95 a week, or 2 rooms of furniture for your living room and bedroom for only $39.95 a week. Hey, 35 years in business, Economy Rentals is Cleveland's oldest family-owned rent-to-own store. Free delivery and setup. Economy Rentals. Rent-to-own? Make it easy to own. Inventory reduction sale. Hey, mention you heard it on Whoop and get 10% off all bedding. Economy Rentals. That's 901 Sahara Drive or call 472-6105. Visit them on the web at economyrentals.net. 901 Sahara Drive or 472-6105.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson on Whoop FM. Call 423-614-5553 to join in on the conversation. Now, back to Backfire.
Oh, golly, I finally got my breath back now. Thank you for settling down a little bit. Good morning, guys. It is starting to look a lot like Christmas around here, isn't it?
I guess.
That's rain's going to turn to snow for us.
Is that a Christmas hat you're wearing?
That's my annual Christmas
That's
hat.
your annual Christmas.
I do
wear it
want to
every
say
year.
that John does look a little bit like that Burl Ives and the Snow animated character.
Oh,
That,
the gray hair, is that it?
yeah.
I loved Burl Ives.
I just want our audience to understand that y'all do get along.
Yeah.
There's something going on around town, and I don't really understand it, but I'm reading something here. In its yearly audit, the Comptroller's Office issued no findings against the Sheriff's Office. The Tennessee Comptroller's Office confirmed today that the Cleveland Daily Banner, the allegations by certain members of the County Commission made against Sheriff Eric Watson and the Bradley County Sheriff's Office concerning improper financial activities have been found to be baseless or incorrect. Y'all know anything about this? I don't.
That's all there is to it.
Well, there was a basis for the county commission to ask questions, and I think it was perfectly appropriate for them to ask for the audit. I think it's a win-win for the government and for the community.
Well, actually, that's very true, because the commission is tasked with making sure that, that's why we have checks and balances in government. But this is a vindication of Sheriff Watson and the way the department's being run right now.
What had actually happened, as I understand it, was a significant creditor for the county who provides services at the jail had indicated they weren't being paid, and that led to this audit. And the sheriff's department's been cleared in that, and I think that's good. That's good. We know that tax money wasn't wasted, but I think it's also good that the county commission was exercising its appropriate oversight role. And I say 3 cheers to them for holding each other accountable.
Now, there was other stuff in that audit report, though.
What is it?
Well, the mayor's office didn't come out quite as good as the sheriff's office did.
Oh, I didn't hear that. What happened?
They had, I believe, 6 major findings. Their budget didn't, their numbers for some of their funds did not equal the same number that Mike Smith, the trustee, had for that same fund. So there were discrepancies in the monies. There were 6 major findings there, and apparently the road department has not been bidding major purchases, equipment purchases. Now, that's a violation of county policy. Apparently, that's not illegal, but it is against county policy. When you have a certain expenditure, you're supposed to bid that out, and that's apparently not happening in the road department.
Why would the road department not bid it out if there's a rule that states that they must?
Well, that probably is a legitimate question to ask.
Who's over the road department? That's an elected position.
Sandra Knight.
So who monitors the bids and so forth?
Well, I mean, she's those are all of those offices, and people need to understand this. They're constitutional offices.
Right.
State constitution establishes these offices. So when you get elected to that, for example, there's a little bit of blowback with the commission. Sometimes they'll say, we want you to do this, this, and this. And a lot of these people say, look, I'm a constitutional elected official. I cooperate, but I don't have to do everything you tell me. So there's always a little bit of a tug back and forth on that. With the county mayor, the general fund required material audit adjustments for proper financial statement and presentation. The general ledger cash account was not properly reconciled with the county trustee reports in the general fund. The general fund ledger payroll liability accounts were not reconciled. The office failed to make timely payments to the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System, resulting in assessed penalties totaling $11,929, and duties were not segregated adequately.
That would get my attention with penalties of $11,000.
Those are major things. You didn't pay into the retirement fund like you're supposed to. Your numbers don't match the county trustees' numbers. And here's what's amazing about that, and I've railed about this in the past. You'll remember that we always see 3 or 4 stories in the Banner about how we win budget awards. And I've always said the budget awards that we win are for how the budget is prepared. In other words, how nice it looks, how well it's typed up, how, well it's folded and stapled into a book, not about the actual numbers. This is about the actual numbers. So we have an award-winning budget that gets 6 dings on the from the comptroller.
Well, let's see what comes out of it. I'm sure something will come out of it.
This is directly off the comptroller's office. You can go to the state of Tennessee comptrollers. The Banner hadn't reported on this yet, but you can go directly to the. And I think it's appropriate if you're looking at the sheriff's department and saying no dings at all, nothing. But yet in the county mayor's office we have 6 major dings, and we have a road department that's buying. I would assume we're talking about big equipment, expensive purchases, and we're not giving. On top of that, you're not giving people the benefit of competing for the business. All of those companies out there pay taxes. They deserve an equal shot at getting the business.
If they're from Cleveland, right?
Well, whether they're from Cleveland or not, but yes, certainly. I don't know whether they're buying it from Cleveland people or not.
I understand what you're saying. Let's see what happens with all that. I bet it'll be cleaned up quickly. Let me ask you another question here, just try to get things moving along. Why would someone start a rumor that Trump is about to fire the FBI special investigator? Why would that rumor come out?
Well, because they want to divert away from the fact that the investigation is collapsing through its own mismanagement and bias.
What do you think, Franklin?
I think it's a trial balloon. The president periodically says things, it gives things away for him saying it. Somebody asked him if he was going to pardon Michael Flynn, and he said, "We're not discussing that yet." Emphasis on the word yet. Which is almost mind-blowing that a president would say that about somebody who was under indictment.
What do you think about the investigation right now?
I think if you read what the congressional members who are on the investigatory committees have been saying, they have all universally said that everybody needs to calm down and let Mueller do his job. That's Republicans and Democrats.
Right, but here's the problem. Mueller's doing a piss poor job right now.
I don't see any
No,
evidence to support
don't get me
that.
wrong. I'm not criticizing Mueller really per se as a person. The problem here, for example, this article in National Review. National Review was really more aligned with the Never Trumpers. And they're not against the investigation. Their point is, for example, this scorched earth technique that Mueller is doing. These documents that we're arguing over right now, he's not entitled to all of them. He is entitled to anything that's relevant. And I would hope that Franklin, as an attorney, would see this. If he had made proper requests, the first thing he should have done is notified the Trump attorneys, we want these documents. They would have gone through the documents, and they would have exerted privilege over some of them, because some of them probably are privileged, and some of them are non-responsive as well. And they would have gone to a judge, which, by the way, the judge has been very sympathetic to Mueller's team and is not a Trump person at all. So the judge would have ruled and said, these are the responsive documents, and he would have ordered the Trump transition team people to turn those documents over. But what did Mueller do? Mueller didn't notify the Trump people that he was going to get them, which is, he didn't have to, but he should have. And he went to the GSA and said, give them all to me. So he got everything. So example, Hillary. This was Hillary's argument. My lawyers went through the emails and sorted out what was relevant and what doesn't. Now, the problem with Hillary is she deleted 30,000 of them. But my point here is Mueller didn't even give the Trump people that opportunity. National Review's position is he's entitled to responsive document, but all he did was make himself look bad.
John, can I respond to what you just said? He learned what Hillary did when she found out, so he was trying to prevent the Republicans from doing anything that Hillary did, right?
The point is he muddied his reputation in doing that.
Well, I don't know that he's muddied his reputation, and that's the part I disagree with strongly. There is a legitimate issue here that John's raising. It's a complicated legal issue, and I hate whenever I use that. Well, it's because they didn't get the documents from the attorney or for the campaign.
But they didn't
That's
ask.
the problem.
And could they have gotten them?
And maybe. It's hard to say. Well, because these are documents that relate to the transition after the election before he's sworn in. And those are traditionally in sort of a legal limbo. It's not clear whether they're subject to the privilege or not.
Should there be a time limit?
So it's really a
I know,
difficult
but my
issue.
point is to close your. I know, but to close your argument, what was the proper way to settle that disagreement?
Presumably, he could have asked the
grand jury.
campaign to produce them first.
And then he would have gone to the grand jury.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with
Right,
you, John.
but that's
I'm just saying
National
it's not-
Review's point.
I don't agree with the idea that this investigation has besmirched his reputation
frankly.
somehow.
Well,
Because I think a lot of this
Paul
stuff that people are
Manafort,
saying,
for example, was cooperating with congressional campaign committee or congressional investigation committees. Mueller was entitled to same situation. How did he handle Paul Manafort? He did a pre-dawn raid with guns drawn and busted the door down to confiscate. Everything he's done has been heavy-handed. And again, National Review is not a big Trump sympathizer. But they're saying the guy has been 17 attorneys on this team. Way more attorneys than you need on this team.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them, too many of them, have obvious political biases.
Well,
I don't agree with that statement either.
you don't agree with that? I mean, it's pretty obvious that they do. I mean, it's been talked
There
about.
are no
Campaign contributions made to Hillary Clinton?
The chief deputy for Mueller gave $39,000 to Republicans.
One. He's the only one.
Okay, but he's the second in command.
Well, you know what?
Are we saying that he's biased here?
Here's well, actually, frankly, yes. I am saying that. I wouldn't have had him on the team either.
Okay, well, first of all, I don't think it's possible to use that standard. It's never been.
So you don't
used
think there's any attorneys in Washington, D.C., maybe outside of the Justice Department, former U.S. attorneys who haven't donated?
I know it's a difficult thing to understand and accept. Lawyers will look at this differently because we know that our jobs are not to pursue our own agendas when we represent somebody or we investigate somebody or we preside over a case
And
as
so
a
you
judge.
wouldn't have sent emails denigrating one side of
Presumably, John, every case that I try in Bradley County right now is heard by a Republican judge who knows I'm a Democrat. Does that mean he can't be fair and biased? So that's what I'm saying.
But
I don't think that this is really the
but
issue.
Franklin, you're trying. You're an advocate. These people aren't supposed to be advocates. They're supposed to
Neither's
be.
the judge.
They're right, but we're not fussing about the judge. We're fussing about the investigators.
Same thing.
No, it's not the same thing.
The district attorney here's a Republican. He knows I'm a Democrat. Every time I deal with him, am I worried that it's because I'm a
All right,
Democrat?
let me ask you a
No.
question. In the sheriff's case, what did our district attorney do?
He recused
Why?
himself. In this case, I would assume it's because of his close working relationship
No,
with the
it's
sheriff.
because
No?
Sheriff Watson had donated money to his campaign.
I think it's more than that, John.
Well, but my point is he recused himself. He removed any sense that it might not be proper. Mueller has gone out of his way to hire some of the most partisan people he could have picked out of the Justice Department.
So far, this investigation has gotten, to me, John, it's gotten more
First off, it was
more Democrats in trouble than it
shouldn't
has
have-
Republicans.
Even some liberal civil libertarians say we shouldn't have had the Mueller appointment in the first place. Now, that's a discussion about actually Trump and some of his people and some Sessions. But the point here is there was no actual crime. Normally, you appoint these people when there's a crime. This was basically established as a fishing not a witch hunt, but a fishing expedition at the start because there was no known crime.
Well, this has been going on a year.
But now we have.
it hasn't been going on.
How long
It's been going on over a year. The investigation started before he was elected, and that's where you get some of these emails going. We have an insurance policy in case he happens to win. And a lot of people want to know what is the insurance policy that he's referring to.
What do you think that insurance policy
I don't
meant?
know.
What do you think it meant?
I don't know. I do know that the number 2 in charge, also a Republican, says that he has applied the long-standing, for decades, Justice Department guidelines for this, and he hasn't found a problem. I do know that there's an ethics watchdog that applies to the Department of Justice, and that those people, when asked, are looking into it, and they haven't taken any action. That all suggests to me that no rules have been violated here.
Let me ask you something. There's not been anything that leading towards Trump at all.
Actually, we have found evidence of collusion. There is new evidence of collusion.
What is it?
Well, apparently, are you familiar with Project Cassandra?
No.
Well, Project Cassandra began in 2008, and it was the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration. They had found that Hezbollah had amassed over $1 billion a year from drug and weapons trafficking, and that they were laundering more money, and so they were investigating. Well, apparently, the Obama administration threw up increasing numbers of roadblocks to the DEA investigating Hezbollah. The officials at Justice and the Treasury delayed every request for subpoenas, for investigations, all to protect the Iran nuclear agreement. So the Obama administration actually colluded with Hezbollah against the Drug Enforcement Agency in order to protect the Iran deal.
Let me ask you something. Who's more dangerous for us to deal with, Iran or Russia?
It depends.
I don't know that there is an answer.
If I were picking, I'd pick Iran.
Who's the worst?
I'd say Iran and North Korea.
What do you think, Franklin?
I'm not sure you even got an opinion.
Well,
about that.
I will say, I know where you're going, but here's a fair problem with that argument. Russia is in bed with Iran.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
they're in bed somewhat with North Korea.
I mean,
so they're all tied together.
Almost everything that Iran has done has been with the backing and assistance of the Russians. So I don't know how you separate those two.
The drug, what's his name? You mentioned his name, Hezbollah or
Hezbollah.
Hezbollah.
Mm-hmm.
He's basically a drug kingpin, isn't he?
Well, that's what this mission was. The DEA was actually trying to investigate them, and what happened was the Obama administration figured out that investigation would also include Iran. They didn't want to do anything to sully Iran before the deal was signed. What? So they actually shut down a DEA investigation to protect Iran.
Well, let's go back to that just a minute. What was so important about us talking with Iran, trying to make buddy-buddy with Iran and giving them an airplane full of money?
Legacy for Obama, and because he didn't believe in America being a leader in the world. Frankly, he was an anti-colonialist. He saw America as a colonial power.
If you look at the foreign policy pursued by Trump versus Obama, they're remarkably similar, with a few exceptions. They've just changed the focus to different places.
I don't think they're even close, are they?
No, they're
not.
We haven't been more expansionist.
He's not. There's a difference between being a leader and being an expansion. See, that's the part of the problem, Frank. What you just said is part of the problem. Obama couldn't make that distinction. Okay. He saw anything, if you were a leader, he saw it as colonial expansionism.
Okay. All I know is there's numerous examples over the last 6 months where our allies are now moving on their own without worrying about what we're doing. That doesn't strike me as greater leadership.
It depends on where you're. In some areas, he's leading more. In some areas, he's saying it's your problem. Deal with it. I mean,
the big difference that I can see is that he has simply made a decision that he's going to back the Saudis in the Middle East and use that as his primary means of influencing what happens there.
Well, the reason he's doing that is because the Saudis, I know, but the Saudis have actually figured out that they're going to have to make peace. This will kill them. He may actually end up signing a peace deal in the Middle East because it's finally, because of what Obama has done, he empowered the Iranians so much that the Saudis and a lot of the more moderate Arab states are now so scared of the Iranians that they're actually willing to make peace with the Israelis. So he may actually lead to a peace agreement. It probably won't include Iran, and they'll all, at that point, be against Iran.
Well, it doesn't really address the division between the two wings of Islamic faith, which are really the root of what's happening in the Middle East. I'm not saying the president's wrong. That's just the difference between the two, is that he's made that decision.
If you're not saying he's wrong, that means he's right.
No, I think the jury's a long way out on that. But I will say this. It's virtually the only thing on a foreign policy standpoint that I think has had a coherent strategy behind it. And I do agree that there is at least a strategy involved there. I haven't seen it elsewhere, but I've seen it there.
Do you think Trump has been a good president this year?
No, I don't. I don't think you could even remotely claim that he has done anything to promote the U.S.'s view around the world as a beacon of freedom.
He's rolling back the size and scope of government regulation. In fact,
that turns out to be false also. It turns out what he's actually done, he's only rolled back something like 32 regulations. There's something like 800 and something that he claims he's rolled back, but in fact, most of those had never even been implemented.
You think the stock market has anything to do with Trump?
Well, I do know that in the first 11 months of the Obama presidency, it went up a greater percentage than it's gone up during this.
The difference is, Franklin, you all claimed that it was going to collapse as soon as he was elected.
I didn't make that claim.
Paul Krugman made that claim. The Democrat Party made that claim.
But that's a fact.
The Democrat Party made that claim, coming and going.
It's a fact.
And what has happened to the stock market since he got elected?
It's gone up 23%.
What has happened to consumer confidence? What's happened to business confidence? Small business people are thrilled.
The point I am simply making is that in percentage terms, it went up a higher amount in the first year of the Obama
We're
presidency.
getting record after record after record.
What about it's a continuation.
Border crossings. What about border crossings?
Border crossings are down.
They were down before he took office.
How about people's
They're down
401ks?
significantly.
How about people's 401ks?
Well, they're in the stock
more.
market. Sure they are.
What about gas prices?
Down.
No significant change.
We've actually finally opened up some drilling in the Anwar.
I tell you what I'm really disappointed with is that the gas prices haven't came way down. Now, they went way up during Obama's term. Way up.
And then dropped way down.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
Frankly. What? When Obama
Franklin,
went
when he went in office, they were about $1.89.
That's right.
When he left office, they were over
$2.40,
$2.50, and they had, for most of the time he was in office, they were $3 and $4.
And you,
why can't we get it back down to $1.80?
Well, one of the reasons they're coming down is because he's actually opened up some drilling again.
That's right. And we've got
and we've approved the pipelines that are going to actually transport.
Fracking. Natural gas.
By the way, let me say something that's interesting about that.
We've got plenty now. We don't have to share with anybody. We got all we need.
So wait, let me make sure I got this straight.
Okay.
It's your position that we have dramatically more oil right now than we had a year ago.
No, we have access to it.
No, we had it.
No,
I'm asking you.
You're right.
There's more in the system.
Matter of fact, we've always had it.
Yeah.
We just have more access to it.
Haven't been able to go get it.
The fact is,
Obama wouldn't let us get it.
Our production is lower this year than it was last year. That's a fact.
Franklin,
the fact that you say you've opened up the
You don't
reserve
think
doesn't change
you don't think
the
fracking
market
changes?
forces.
You don't think
Fracking happened under Obama. He's the one who made it possible.
But Franklin, what happens is the companies are investing much more now because they know they've got a positive environment to invest in. Obama was opposed to fracking, and so they were worried about investing in the technology.
Obama is the one who allowed the fracking.
No. He was opposed to it.
Expanded dramatically during the 80s.
Because it was invented during the time, but it didn't expand dramatically because they were always worried about the EPA coming down on them.
I will repeat.
Why you don't think that any of these things Trump helped at all? The stock market going up.
So
I don't accept the notion
border
that
crossings
Trump,
down.
They had been down the last 2 years.
They're down because they know there's a much better chance of them not being able to stay.
They're down because the economy in Mexico had been up. And they didn't have to come.
Too, so why aren't there more of them coming?
They came here, though, because they couldn't get work where they were.
But my point is the economy is better here now, too, so why wouldn't it have at least held even?
Because the motivator was whether they could make a living at home or not. If they can make a living at home, they don't come here.
So you think that the economy in Mexico is good?
We're about out of time.
Better.
I want to finish up with just a question. When do you think the investigation in Trump's Russian affairs should end? Do you think we ought to put a time limit around it?
No.
We've been on it over a year now. Nothing's been found. Nothing.
How long did the Whitewater investigation take?
I mean, I'm just trying to say.
Now, how long did that take?
Well, is there any examples of anything?
It went on for 2.5 years.
Well, one of the reasons the Whitewater took so long is they couldn't find the Rose law firm records, and then amazingly, a couple of years
That's where
later,
Hillary was,
they
wasn't it?
appeared on the library table in the White House with Hillary's fingerprints on them.
When the president's son comes before Congress and invokes the Fifth Amendment like 30 times, it's not going to bring us to a quick end.
You mean like Lois Lerner and all the
I'm
IRS
not
people did?
criticizing them for doing it. I'm just telling you, don't complain about the speed of the investigation
Here's what
and then slow it down.
Now, this is our last show this year. I want to state that again. We'll be back next year.
I'd still have Christmas thing.
Oh, and we want to end with John. But let me just say, it's been an interesting year, and I'm just happy to be a Republican right now.
Well, you're the smartest Republican I know, because you are the one, in fact, who did predict what was going to happen.
Well, thank you, John. Thank you. Hey, let's have a round of applause for that.
For the smartest Republican we know. Hickson.
A Hickson prediction. A Hickson prediction. All right, John, we're going to let you end this year.
All right, now, folks, this is an abashedly Christmas story, okay? All right. And I may not get through it all. In 1994, two Americans answered an invitation from the Russian Department of Education to teach morals and ethics based on biblical principles in the public schools. They were invited to teach at a prison, businesses, fire and police departments, and a large orphanage. About 100 boys and girls who had been abandoned, abused, and left in the care of the government-run program were in the orphanage. They relate the following story in their own words. It was nearing the holiday season, 1994, time for our orphans to hear, for the first time, the traditional story of Christmas. We told them about Mary and Joseph arriving in Bethlehem, finding no room in the inn. The couple went to a stable where the baby Jesus was born and placed in a manger. Throughout the story, the children and orphanage staff sat in amazement as they listened. Some sat on the edges of their stools trying to grasp every word. Completing the story, we gave the children 3 small pieces of cardboard to make a crude manger. Each child was given a small paper square cut from yellow napkins I had brought with me. No colored paper was available in the city. Following instructions, the children tore the paper and carefully laid strips in the manger for straw. Small squares of flannel cut from a worn-out nightgown an American lady was throwing away as she left Russia were used for the baby's blanket. A doll-like baby was cut from tan felt that we had brought from the United States. The orphans were busy assembling their mangers as I walked among them to see if they needed any help. All went well until I got to one table where little Misha sat. He looked to be about 6 years old and had finished his project. As I looked at the little boy's manger, I was startled to see not one but 2 babies in the manger. Quickly, I called for the translator to ask the lad why there were 2 babies in the manger. Crossing his arms in front of him and looking at his completed manger scene, the child began to repeat the story very seriously. For such a young boy who had only heard the Christmas story once, he related the happenings accurately until he came to the part where Mary put the baby Jesus in the manger. Then Misha started to ad-lib. He made up his own ending to the story as he said, "And when Maria laid the baby in the manger, Jesus looked at me and asked me if I had a place to stay. I told him I have no mama and I have no papa, so I don't have any place to stay. Then Jesus told me I could stay with him. But I told him I couldn't because I didn't have a gift to give him like everybody else did. But I wanted to stay with Jesus so much, so I thought about what I had that maybe I could use for a gift. I thought maybe if I kept him warm, that would be a good gift. So I asked Jesus, if I keep you warm, will that be a good enough gift? And Jesus told me, if you keep me warm, that will be the best gift anybody ever gave me. So I got into the manger, and then Jesus looked at me, and he told me that I could stay with him for always. As little Misha finished his story, his eyes brimmed full of tears that splashed down his little cheeks. Putting his hands over his face, his head dropped to the table, and his shoulders shook as he sobbed and sobbed. The little orphan had found someone who would never abandon nor abuse him, someone who would stay with him for always.
See, John is a pretty good fella.
Hey, great story, John.
Thanks, John.
Merry Christmas, everyone. See you next year. Bye-bye. Now then, these are